Well, hello, good afternoon. Basically, if you're behind us, it's good morning. If you're ahead of us, or if you're in India, it's a good afternoon for you. So this is again one more webinar from Telric India. We typically do these webinars almost every month, every Thursday of the month, close to 3 webinars a month. So we try to go through a couple of interesting things in the technology, both Telerik as well as generic developer related topic. And today, one of the topics that we're doing today is the Angular 2. This as we put the title of this webinar, the bleeding edge. So yeah, that's how it is being seen as. Angular 2 seems to be faster compared to the Angular 1.x, and Angular 2 seems to be going places. So we have a framework or a runtime for developing cross-platform native mobile applications called as native script. So basically what we have done in native script is we let you use Angular 2 as the framework for building your UIs, and then that's it. So that's why I said Angular 2 is going places, and we are kind of working closely with Google, with the Angular 2 team in order to make sure, like, we catch up with whatever Angular is doing in terms of the framework and all those things. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take you through what is Angular 2, and then how do you start with Angular 2, just the basics. It's like a level 50. I'm not going to go too deep, but leave you with core concepts of Angular 2 so that you get a heads up into, okay, this is what Angular 2 in next 50 minutes or so. That's the whole goal of this particular webinar is all about, just to take you there, get your feet wet, and then leave it off so that you can go and then start continue to explore further. So if you have been a regular, you would have known who I am. Well, if you're the first time here with our webinar, so it's me. This is me. My name is Lohit. I work as a technical evangelist. I'm also a Microsoft MVP in the area of Visual Studio and development. And these are some of my coordinates. I'm available on Twitter. I have my own website, and that's my short URL. And telrichelper.net is a website where I keep writing mostly some of the tips and tricks, or how do you work with certain Telric related components or controls or technology. And telric.com is our global website. So if you want to know what we do at Telric, this is a place to go and then figure out what are the products that we have and what product does what. All those information you will get it at telric.com. So now coming to Angular 2.0, or Angular 2 as it is called. Basically it's currently in beta now. So it was in alpha and then moved to beta, and then it's still not production ready, as they call it, meaning it's a beta software, and then Google will not provide any support anything if you use the beta software in your production. So that's why it's called as a beta, meaning it's still not yet fully baked in. According to Google, Angular 2.0 is one framework for mobile and desktop. So if you're building a mobile web application or a desktop, like meaning a web application for the browsers, so now Google is saying that Angular 2 is the one framework that you need, because they have done certain things which makes it faster to use use Angular even on a mobile web application. If you want to build a mobile web app, which can take care of the transitions, which can take care of the scrolling, all those things. So they have done something in Angular 2, and then you can pretty much use this on a mobile front end also. So some of the features for Angular 2 is like, it's faster. I believe I read in one of the papers or in one of the articles that, Angular 2.0 may be 5x to 10x faster if you compare to your Angular 1.x. And how do they make it easier or flexible on the mobile side, or coming to the mobile landscape? They use web workers for smooth scrolling, and then they use Angular Universal, meaning although it's a mobile web, you can actually have Angular render the HTML on the server side itself. The complete markup can be rendered on the server, and then just the markup is pushed to your mobile screen. So that kind of makes it faster when it comes to your mobile. Even you can do the same server-side rendering. If you have heard of universal JavaScript or isomorphic JavaScript, so that these are some of the terminologies that you keep hearing in JavaScript world. What it means is, I can render the full markup on the server and then just push that to the client. So that means it's already completely rendered. Typically what happens with most JavaScript front end is you first send the JavaScript code, and then on the client side the JavaScript code runs and then creates the UI, right? So what if the JavaScript is turned off, right? Some browser, if the JavaScript is turned off, what would you do? So that's when this concept of server-side rendering comes into picture. So on the server, although there's no client, but still these frameworks are capable of rendering the full client-side markup, and then the server just pushes that markup to the client. When it comes to the client, it's just a normal HTML that's available, and then that's it. You just render that. The browser just renders that happily. So that's called as server-side rendering. So they are able to do that in Angular 2. And flexible. So what do you mean by flexible is, when it comes to Angular 2, there are a couple of languages that you can use to develop Angular 2. First and foremost is our very good old friend JavaScript, meaning you can use ES5 and then you can start writing Angular 2 applications. You can actually write ES6 also. You can use ES6 also. ES6, mind you, for those of you who don't know what ES6 is, it's ECMAScript 6. That's our, I think it is renamed to ECMAScript 2015. There's a question, won't that create a load on the server when there are multiple requests parallelly? Nope, that's the whole concept of the server. So the server is smart enough to cache certain things, and then boom, it just gives away that. And not only that, these frameworks are built in such a way that they know how to optimize each rendering. Or for example, when the server side, when it has to render the markup, so these frameworks are optimized to do the smart caching, smart algorithms to speed up these kind of rendering stuff. So it doesn't affect anything from your client perspective, because mind you, you are on a server. The server has more power than your client side, and that's why you're able to kind of take the request load and then do things. So flexible, I was talking about flexible are the languages. So you can always start with the plain old JavaScript that you know now, and pretty much start with Angular 2. The ES6 or the renamed, it's been renamed to ECMAScript or EC 2015 or JavaScript 2015. They call it in many ways, but that is nothing but the next version of JavaScript that's going to come to the browsers. So you can use ES3 or ES5, which is the current JavaScript that every browser understands, or you can use the next version of JavaScript, which is ES6 or ECMAScript 2015. Or you can actually use TypeScript. I like TypeScript because it's much more closer to the C# world. I come from C# world. I've been programming in C# for 15 years, so I'm kind of closely attached to this object-oriented language, C#. With TypeScript, what happens is I get to play around, or I get to write the same syntactical sugar, as we call it, in JavaScript. Mind you, JavaScript is a typeless language. There's no type in JavaScript. There's only, you just have a var, means it takes anything, right? But with TypeScript, what happens is I can go in and then say like, hey, this variable is an integer, this variable is a string, and then but ultimately it will boil down to JavaScript. But when I'm developing, TypeScript provides me the concepts that are not there in JavaScript. I can go ahead, create a class. I can go ahead, create an interface. I can go ahead, create a generic class. Those sugar, as we call it, syntactical sugars are available in TypeScript. So now what Google has done is Google has embraced TypeScript. So they say like, hey, you know what, if you want to go ahead and then start programming with TypeScript, that's fine with us. We'll work with you. And Dart is a language which is developed by Google itself. So you're flexible to actually go and then create or develop Angular 2 applications using any of these languages: JavaScript, the plain old JavaScript, or ES 2015 or EC 2015, TypeScript, or Dart. So that's why I say it's flexible. So these are some of the core or the features of Angular 2, the very high level features of Angular 2. But you may be asking like, okay, that's fine, but the webinar is what's new. So what is new in Angular 2? Well, if you ask me, everything is new in Angular 2. Why? Angular 2 is a new rewrite, or they are written completely from scratch. Angular 2 is being written from the scratch. Angular 2 is not take Angular 1 and then do something with Angular 1. No. Angular 1.x will continue to be its own stuff, and then Angular 2 is a completely brand new rewritten framework, and that's why they are currently working towards, if you already have Angular 1.x, how do you move to Angular 2? So I think there are certain upgrade paths that have been kind of brought about by Google itself. But keep in mind, what is new in Angular 2? Everything, because Angular 2 is a completely brand new rewritten framework with new concepts. But that's for the good. I think that I have it in the next slide. Some of the things that you had to do for Angular, which I disliked in 1.x. For example, I kind of felt that there are so many magical strings in Angular 1.x, and then I kept away from Angular 1.x. That's because it was too much for me. You go put ng dash something somewhere, and then you create angular.module.this, angular.module.service, or angular.service. It's too many things that was happening under the background, and then that was kind of confusing for me. That's my personal opinion here. It's got nothing to do with Telerik or anybody, but this is me as a developer talking here. So I stayed away from 1.x. I knew what 1.x was, everything, but I kind of stayed away because of all these things. So now what is happening with Angular 2 is I'm kind of liking where Angular is going with 2. Angular 2 makes use of some of the constructs or some of the things that's going to be coming up in the next version of JavaScript. If you have not been following the JavaScript world, the next version of JavaScript brings in classes, brings in modules, brings in a lot of goodness to the JavaScript world. So Angular 2 is making use of those things. So no more Angular modules for you. Everything is an ES6 module, or the TypeScript module. So that's what you get now with Angular 2.0. So that's cleaner, that's leaner, and then that's pretty much what will be the future in JavaScript world. So Google made the right decision that, okay, you know what, let's rewrite and then make use of the language constructs that are available out of the box, and that's the class, that's the module, all those things. So now, so that's what I meant by everything. So no more Angular module. So that's what I was talking about. Some of the changes are you do not do Angular.module anymore. You just go ahead and then create a class, and that class is like a module for you, and then that's it. Uses the ES6 module concept. And most ng directives are not available. ng-click, ng-that, ng-this. No more of those things. Why? Because instead it uses a data binding concept to the element properties. So I'm going to show you that. And no more ng-var or all those things. Instead there is a new syntax. These are known as structural directives, meaning they alter the structure of an element. So you have star ng-var and then star ng-ef. Notice it's a camel case kind of a directive. So this is a big difference than what you had from 1.x. And it uses decorators to actually provide metadata to a particular class. Decorators, for you, those of you who don't know, are a new concept that's been proposed in the next version of the JavaScript. If I have to put a metadata on a particular class, on a particular piece of code, right? So I will be using this decorator. So Angular 2 uses a decorator called as component, injectable, input, all those things. There are a bunch of decorators available within the what do you call Angular 2. Today I'm going to be talking on the component decorator. I'm not going to go too deep into these things. And this is the biggest thing data binds like. There's a question, data binds like. So instead of what I'm trying to say is no more doing an ng- model is equal to, and then you used to do a double brace and then a property value. So that means it was always a two-way data binding. What if I want a one-way data binding on a input type, right? So I can always go back and then say like, hey, Angular, I want you to bind a value property of the input with a property X from the model. That's it. That's a one-way data binding that I'm going to do. And not only that, you used to have ng-click. So no more ng-click. I can just, there's a different syntax now wherein I can say like, hey, I want the click event of this particular element to be bound to a particular method, and then you know, whenever this click event happens, invoke that particular method. So that's what you will do. So that's what we're going to see in some of the demos. And this is the bottom line, you know, in Angular 2, everything is a component, full stop. So you know, that's what it is. Everything is a component. It's taking this concept of web components, a open standard that is there, or the web standard that is there, and then taking it to the next level. So everything, your app itself is a component, and then within that component you start creating your multiple components, pretty similar to what React took a route off. In React you do components, and then you start composing the components. So pretty similar, but here they have taken that aspect of the component, and then they say, like, you know, a component has a template, a component has a class, or the logic. So the class, the JavaScript class, is the logic, and then I say, like, hey, for this component, here is a template. The template is the UI, and then I can actually go and then say, like, you know, this template uses this particular style sheet. So I can create a style sheet, I can create a template, I can create a class file. So that's how Angular 2 goes into this particular, you know, how do you compose things in Angular 2. So I hope this is kind of given you a whirlwind tour of what Angular 2 is all about. Now I'm going to spend some time going about you know, creating some code, right? So what I've done is, you can use any editor that you want, because at the end of the day, this is just a JavaScript, HTML is what we're going to do. But I'm going to be using a language called as TypeScript, and there's no better editor in my perception or my perspective other than Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code as my editor today, and this is the Visual Studio Code. Let me remove some of these things. I was just practicing. So I'm going to show you a couple of things here now. So yeah, so what I've done is, so this is the demo folder, and then in the demo folder what I've done is basically I have an app folder, and then I have an index.html. So let me come back and then talk about this index.html in a while. But here is my package.json. So what I'm using is I'm just going to go and then create a package.json. So this is very popular in the NPM world. Like, you know, if you're creating a node-based application, all you do is put a package.json and say these are the packages that you need. So let me bring your attention to what we need. Let me bring it my zoom it. Okay, so my dependencies are only this. So here is the Angular 2. We are using system.js. So system.js is nothing but, it's kind of a module loader. It knows how to load modules at runtime, and then, you know, get you a particular module that you need in all those things. The ES6 shim is nothing but, currently not all the browsers understand ES6, so you still need that you know, ES6 code to be transpiled or converted into ES5. But this shim is for supporting older browsers like IE9. Oh, I forgot to mention this, but the browser support from Angular 2 perspective starts from IE9 and above. So that's a pretty good, interesting thing that Google team has done. It will support IE9 and above. So that means IE9, 10, 11, even in fact Edge. And of course all the Chrome and then the Firefox, so all the browsers are supported. So I'm using the shim if I'm anytime running this in an IE9 based thing, and then I'm using reactive extensions. These are some of the dependencies that Angular currently uses. And then I also have TypeScript, because I'm going to be using TypeScript as a language, so you need the TypeScript code to be converted into JavaScript or ES5 code, right? So that's what the browsers will understand. So I'm using TypeScript in order to convert that, and then in this particular code I'm using a particular server called as Light Server. The Light Server is nothing but a web server, and then it's going to just host my web application. All I have is an index.html, and that's it, but I get a web server to host that particular thing. So that's my package.json, and then I also created TypeScript configuration here. So if you see here, I'm telling TypeScript compiler that when it compiles a TypeScript file, I want it to compile it to ES5, meaning transpile the TypeScript code to ES5 definitions, or so that the browsers can understand. I'm saying like the module system it should use is the system.js. There are bunch of module system. You have the common JS module system, you have the AMD module system. So now I'm using system.js, and then other things like emit the decorator metadata, and then source map, should it generate a source map or not, and all those things. And then I'm saying do not go and then look inside node underscore modules at all. I don't want you to convert any files inside node modules and all those things. That is what I'm saying here. And here is my index dot, let me, so this is my index.html. All I've done is I just said Angular 2 quick start, and then I've included a couple of this is what I was talking about. So there is a shim for the polyfills for IE required polyfills. If you run in an older browser, you need these guys. If you're not running in an older browser, you don't need those guys. And then here is the Angular 2 polyfill, then the actual Angular this one, then I have the reactive extension, and this is the system.js, the module loader. Now that's the first thing. So you will need to come and then use all this, load the libraries as you can see here. So you will need that. Once you have done that, I think my code is running. So let me just kill that for a while. And I'm going to, yeah, so once you are done that, you need to let the module loader know what it needs to do. So basically what we are telling is we are telling the system.js that, hey, here's your configuration, the default extensions will be JavaScript file, and then it's a register format for this one, and then this is the main thing. So we are saying like, hey, I want you to go load a particular file called app/main. That's the main entry point into my application. And notice here, there is no tag in the world in HTML world called as my-app. So that's something that I have created custom. So this is like a web component, right? It's like a custom tag or a custom component. So we're going to see how do we do this. So the idea is this is what will be an Angular 2 component, and that Angular 2 component is what we're going to be loading inside this particular or in this particular tag or component, as you can see it. So this is the mandatory stuff as of now. You will need to do this. And then one more thing that is happening is we have used TypeScript. So what we are doing is at runtime, that is on the browser, we will be converting TypeScript into JavaScript. But in a I hope everybody can hear me clearly. Somebody said there's a disturbance. Let me, it should be good by now. So this is something that you will need to do. It's like a what we call as setting up things. So we are saying like, hey, go ahead, load the main module, and the inside the main module we'll see what needs to be done. So but this is the bare bone template that you will need now. In a production scenario, you will never let browser transpile or convert a TypeScript file into a JavaScript file. What you will do is in your build step, you will use the TypeScript compiler, and then you will say that, hey, TypeScript compiler, go ahead, look into the app folder, and if you find any TypeScript file, convert that TypeScript file into a JavaScript file, and then it will convert that into the JavaScript file, and then that is what you will host in your production environment. In this demo, I'm just using the whatever we normally do, that is, hey, let the browser, on the browser, let it go transpile it. So TypeScript has this capability to, that's why I'm using TypeScript.js, and that will be converting our, basically the files into JavaScript. So what I'm doing is, let me show you package.json. And if you see here, when I do npm start, I'm actually running TypeScript compiler with a watch, and then of course there will be a light server being started. So what this TypeScript compiler does is it's going to keep watching my folder, and then if there is any changes in a TypeScript file, it will immediately kick in, and then it will take the TypeScript file, compile it in JavaScript file, and then reload the browser. So that is what this is a developmental stuff. But this is what typically you will do in a production environment also. That is, before you go take your code and then put it into your production server, you should do the TSC, that is TypeScript compiler. Call the TypeScript compiler, let it compile all TypeScript files into JavaScript file, then take the JS files and then put it into your production deployment. That's what you will do. But now for the demo perspective, I'm just using the node and then npm and then TSC, all those things, and then using that. Somebody is asking what is TypeScript, so I do not have time to explain what is TypeScript. Now for now, just assume it's a JavaScript with a typed definitions that you get. So that's what I've done here now. So let me go back to this, and then if you see here, I have my app loadings. But before that, we will need to do this. We'll need to go ahead and then create this app folder. We will need to create a main.ts. So in the main.ts, all we need to do is we need to do certain things. One of them is we need to first get something called as a bootstrap. So remember, in Angular 1.x world, you used to bootstrap it. How you used to go and then say angular.module, angular. All those things. So now you don't need anything of that sort at all. So you can come in and then you can say, like, import a particular object called as a bootstrap from this will be Angular 2/platform/browser. Okay, and then we need to do one more thing. We need to give this particular bootstrapper our app component. Or remember, I told you everything is a component in Angular world. So even my application is a component. So I need to tell Angular that, hey, here is my application component and I want you to start that component. So for now, I don't have an app component, so I will be creating this in a moment, but assume that I have this, and then where can I find this particular component? Well, that is nothing but it will be in the same folder, but it will be called as app.component. Right? Notice I'm not giving any extension. That is not required also. So now I can do this bootstrap and I will get all the, so in the bootstrap, all I need to do is I need to provide my app component. That's it. So this is the concept now in Angular 2. You will need to bootstrap, and then in the bootstrap you will need to give yeah, so basically component is like a module. So yeah, you can treat it like that, but now the component is little bit extra than just a module. Or typically in a Node.js world or in any JavaScript world, when I say a module is just nothing but a business logic. So in Angular 2 world, the component is not just business logic, but rather it is all about a template, and then a business logic powering that template. The template is your UI, and the class itself is the component. The component class itself is like a business logic. So we're going to see that. So this is the main thing. First, I need to create my main .ts file, and the moment I save it, so the TypeScript compiler will be able to create a JavaScript file out of this. So I'm saying import bootstrap from this particular file, and then I want app component from this particular file. So now my next thing is to create my app component, right? So let's see what needs to be done for that. So what I need to do is, it's a common practice to actually say my feature, then attribute that with a component keyword, and then create the file. So I'm saying this is an application component. This is something that you will see very, very, very widely in the Angular 2 world. You typically take a feature name dot and then a component dot the file name. So in my case, remember I said everything is component, so I'm trying to create an application component. So I said app.component.ts, and if I go back to main.ts now, notice here I'm saying, hey, I want you to load app component from app.component. So this is the file. In this file, he will find app component. So we still haven't done that. So let's create that. Now, in order to create a component, what you need is you need to get something from Angular 2. So Angular 2/core. What is that something? Well, this is why I like Visual Studio Code. Oh, something happened. I'm not getting my IntelliSense. Okay, that's fine. So basically what you will do is you will say like, hey, give me or import a particular object called as component from the Angular 2/core. Okay, so now what I can do is I can come in here and then say export class app component. So this is how you create a component. What is this? Well, this is a TypeScript way to say, like, create a class, but this is not yet a component. So when does this become a component? Well, I will have to decorate this with what is known as an UT script, or Google calls it as an UT script. So I can say a component, and then I can say, like, so for the component, so this is the decorator, and then for the decorator there are certain things that I'll need to create, I'll need to provide. So this is the metadata that we provide now. What is the metadata? Well, I know this is a component, but where should I render this component? How do I know on an index.html or on some HTML page, where is that particular location, or where is that particular place where I can inject, or where I can go and then dump this component? Remember I told the component contains certain UI, UI also, they're like HTML tags and all those things. So one of the things that we provide for the component is something called a selector. What you're saying is, hey, wherever you are you will be injected, or wherever you will be kind of rendered, look out for a particular tag called as my app. This is your selector. You should be rendered in that particular tag called as my dash app, or you should say, like, or in other way it's like, hey, my app is the component where we want the UI of this whatever I'm going to write now to be output now. So this is a selector. Now what is a template? Notice here in my class I'm going to keep it empty for now because I don't have anything now for now. So this is like a hello world that I'm going to do now. What is it? So I'm going to say template, and I can actually do h1 hello world from Angular 2. Well, that's all. This is the template that I can now come in and then do that. So let's go back once again and then take a look at this. So in the index.html we have kept this my dash app. We came back to main.ts and then we said, hey, import an app component from this particular file, and we tell Angular 2 that, hey, bootstrap this particular component. So this is the way Angular knows where to start or what to do. So when the moment I say bootstrap app, the app component, it's going to go look at app component metadata, and in the metadata we say, like, hey, if you are ever called to be rendered, you should look for a particular tag called as my dash app, and here is the UI that you will be rendering, and take this UI and then render it inside that my dash app. That is as simple as it can get, right? So you may be wondering, like, what is this? The template is coming as a string here in this class. Well, just hang on. We will need to see. Thank you. Somebody told me that we need a closing tag. Yeah, I forgot that. So this is what you will be doing now. I mean, this is as simple as it can get. App is a component, and we will be looking out for my dash app inside inside the HTML file, wherever this will be called to render. And what do we render? We render this template. That is all it is saying. That is all Angular 2 is all about. Everything is a component, and this is what why I'm liking Angular 2 than Angular 1.x, because I understand this. I come from a programming world where I first go and then say use a particular namespace in my I go and then put a import tag or a using tag. If you're coming from Java, you have this import namespace so and so. If you're coming from C# world, we typically do using system.data. So this is what I'm used to, right? So now with TypeScript, what I do is I'm saying, hey, I want this particular object which is available in this particular namespace, Angular 2/core. That's like a namespace. But in JavaScript world, all you do is there is a file. The file contains an object. Can you please give me this? So let me see if I can go to definition. Okay, it's not happening. So typically you can do that, go to definition thing. So this is a decorator. all I'm saying is, hey, this component, this is the metadata for that component. What is the metadata? A selector and a template. Now, if everything is correct, all I can see, what I should see is, inside this, I should see hello world from Angular 2. So let me go ahead and then do an npm start now. And I'm going to say npm start. So what this will do is, this is going to boot up that light server that I talked about, and it's going to open up a Internet Explorer and then do a browser sync, so that even if I make any changes, I'm going to get the reflection, or the changes are reflected immediately on the browser without me going and then doing F5 or refresh. So let's wait for this guy to boot up, and there you go. This is doing TSC now, meaning TypeScript is being called, and inside Visual Studio we should actually see, oh, there we go. Do you see this main.js file? That's because TypeScript went ahead, it looked at all the TypeScript files that it has, and then it created a JS file for that. And now it has launched my browser. It says localhost 3000. It has actually opened on my another monitor. So let me bring up, there we go. So we have hello world from Angular 2. Well, if you don't believe me that, hey, this is some magic is doing, so let me do another magic. Since I'm using browser sync, now what I can do is, I can go back to app component.ts, and then I can say hello world from Lohit, and I did a control yes, and on the right hand side you see it's reloading the browser. That's the browser sync for you. It's a developmental technology that we guys use in the front end world, or the JavaScript HTML world, that I don't want to go refresh the screens every time there is a change. Let somebody do it for me. They should detect that there's a file change, and then it should automatically do that. Now this is fine, this is a one-liner, but what if I'm going to do a multi-line thing? So how can I create a multi-line template? Well, TypeScript, remember, is nothing but it is using all the ES6 features, or TypeScript specifications actually map closely to the next version of the JavaScript. One of the coolest things in the JavaScript next version is, if you want to ever create a multi-line template, you do not have to do a string concatenation. Remember, if you have to do a multi-line in JavaScript, we used to do a string concatenation with a plus mark. Now you don't have to. If you see on your keyboard, whichever key represents a tilde, we have another character there. It's called as a back tick. So I'm giving a back tick. So let me zoom in. Notice here, this guy, this is known as backtick. This is on the keyboard, on the key where you have a tilde. So it's the same thing. So what I can do now is, I can go multi-line now. So maybe I want to do something like, my tab is not working. Tab moves focus. No, I don't want that. So what I'm doing now is, I'm going to say H1 Angular to getting started demo, and that's a H1. And then in the next line I can come in here and then say, like, hello world from Lohit, and then I can do this, and then all I need to do is, I just have to give a backtick again, and that's it. This is a template now. And on the right hand side you will see the same thing coming up: Angular 2 getting started demo, hello world from Lohit. So I created a multi-line template. So this is the initial starting point. So yeah, I'm going to show loop and all those things. So just wait for that. So now somehow I don't like this template being inside this particular component itself. I want to create a separate file for that. So what I can do is, I can copy, or I can cut this particular thing, and there's another property in the component decorator, and that's called as a template URL. I can come in and say, like, hey, template decorator, figure out app folder. Inside the app folder you will have app.component.html. How cool can it become, right? This is what it is. So now all I need to do is come back to the app folder, and then I can say, like, I want a new file. I call it app.component.html, and I'm going to just paste it as is, remove the backtick, and that's it. So now I get back to my familiar HTML world, right? I don't have to worry about backticks or whatever. So now I do this and it still works. So if you're thinking, oh, is this bluffing? So let me go and then bring this back to hello world from Angular 2. And then I save that. And oh, I think I did not save it. I did not save this guy. And there you go, hello world from Angular 2. So let me open up this. And I hope you get the idea. So I can say like, maybe I put an input type is equal to text maybe. Yep, made a mistake. There you go. So you have the input type figure, the text box coming up. Now let's start playing around some of the things. So what I'm going to do is in TypeScript, what I can do is I can come back here and then say like, this is a name and this is a string, and then initially it is null, and then I can say like, constructor, and I can say like, this dot name is equal to Lohit, right? I can do this. Then I can go back to the app.component and then say like, your name is maybe a span, and if you're coming from Angular 1 world, assume how are you putting, how did you do the data binding for a particular value, right? You would do this way, right? What happened? App.component, yeah, this dot name is equal to Lohit, and okay. So now what I can do is inner text is equal to, just give me a second, I missed something. Yeah, you can always do the, this is another syntax, but you can always do this. Somebody is asking how we put the style or CSS in these templates. Well, you can always go back and then create like, app.component.css, and then you provide the decorator what style sheet it uses, and then it will be, it will pick up that particular things. So now selector is this. Okay, just give me a second. Syntaxes, think I missed something. Okay, let's try this guy, and this will be, so let's say I have this particular, let me come back to this. So let's say I have this value is equal to, and then let me see if this works. Nope, what mistake did I do? Constructor name colon string, it's a TypeScript file. Let me see if I can do this way and remove this. So assume I have this name. Yeah, there we go. So we're getting it. So I think I missed, if I do it in a constructor, oh, and the constructor I had a spelling wrong. Okay, so constructor, thank you. Oh, there you go. Yeah, now I got it. So now what I can do is I can come back and then do like whatever I used to do in my object-oriented programming. I created a variable called as name. I can say like, this dot name is equal to Lohit, and go back to this guy. Now you'll see like, Lohit will come up there, and then I can come back here and then say like, hey, your name is, and I can put like, span, and I can always do this. And there we go. So now you see this. So the span is getting bound to the name, but we have a problem here now. So my idea was, since it's a text box, if I make a change to that particular value, well, this particular span should have also changed it, right? Well, that's not the way this Angular 2 works now. In Angular 2, everything is a one-way data binding by default. If you need something to happen, let me show you a couple of other ways where how you can bind it. So this is one way. Value is equal to name. Our span is equal to this. Another way to bind this is I can come in here and then put a square brackets. The moment I put a square bracket, that's a new syntax that Angular 2 brings in, and then here I can do this inner text is equal to, and I can say name, and there you go, I still get Lohit, right? So this is what it is. I can just say inner HTML is equal to, yeah, so it's still going to be the same thing I can do here. I can say like, value name. I like the syntax. What this means is, hey, this is a property of this element. I want this value property of this input type to be bound to name property of my component or my class or module or whatever I'm bound to. Well, you may ask like, that is fine, but how do I make this as a two-way data binding, right? So in order to make this a two-way data binding, what you will need to do is you will need to come back and then do something like this. You will have to put a parenthesis and then say ng model. So now the moment I change something here, notice the span changes. So this concept of ng model is still there, but it's going to be a completely different syntax. If you want to do a two-way data binding, yeah, you will need to do something like this, right? And then what else I can show you guys? This is something very simple. That's, as I said, I want to keep it very, very simple. And then two-way data binding is this. And let's see if we can build some directives. No, not directives, sorry. So let's say I'm going to do some, yeah, now let's talk about, so okay, I know what we need to do next. So let's say we have a button, right? And I say click me, and this is a button. So what I want to do is on click of this button, I want to alert saying like, hey, you clicked on basically you clicked on this button, right? That's what I want to do. So let me save this. So yeah, I got the button. So now if I click on it, well, nothing happens. So now what I want to do is I want to go to app component, and here this is why I love TypeScript. This is TypeScript, by the way, for you. So I can just say click me, and this is a function. That is all I need to do. And then I can say alert hello world from code, right? Now big question is, how do I call this click me function? Well, anyway, now I still haven't bound it. So and the Angular 2 makes it very, very simple. Any property is a square bracket. Any event is actually a bracket. And then I can say, hey, you know what? I want you to, whenever this happens, I want you to call click me. Remember what did we give? Click me. Yeah. So this is all is the syntax now in Angular 2. If you are coming from Angular 1 world, remember you used to have a custom directive ng-click. No need of any of the basically the communicating with each other or whatever it is. So I mean, in the directive, so you used to put all those custom directive like ng-click, ng-show, ng-this, ng-blah blah blah. So no more of that. So you just say click, and then you will say click me, and I'm going to save this, and there we go, hello world from code. So you can now think about any of these things. So somebody was asking for style, so let me see, quickly grab a example of a style maybe. So showing an array, yeah, first let's do an array thing, and then we'll come back to this. So assume I have, let's say I have a heroes, and this is going to be array of any, or no, this is an array of string, and I have it null. So and I'm going to say this dot heroes is equal to, I'm just going to copy a basic an array. So this is like windstorm, bombasto, magneta, tornado, and all those things. So these are heroes. Now I need to show this in the UI, right? So I can go back to my app component, and then what I can do is I can come back here, assume I'm going to do a unordered list. So I'm going to say heroes, and I will say ul, and of course, okay, let's use the emit, and I need an li, but this li, what I will do is I will say star ng for, and now you have an this is a completely new syntax. It says hash hero, that's interpolation, and then I'm going to say for this, and I can just say hero. I have a error somewhere. Okay, let me check what it is. I'm opening my console. So what happened? Okay, unhandled promise rejections. No, never. Okay, I'm gonna just for a while. I'm not sure where I went wrong, so I'm gonna just move this guy up here just so that we continue with our thing, because TypeScript is smart enough to understand that the heroes is actually a array of strings or whatever it is. So I'll come back here, ng for, and then is equal to hero of heroes. Show me this. Looks like this guy did not refresh. No, I still have constructor heroes. Yeah, I've given an array. And it's still going to be the same. Hash hero, no, this is fine. So this is the new syntax that they have. So star ng for is equal to hash hero. Oh, sorry, it's not. Okay, this is another change, right? So in the one.x world, you used to do in, whereas in the Angular 2 world, it's no more in. It says hash hero of heroes. So I got to do this. And there we go. So that's the confusion that pretty much most of the people will have now from now onwards. Basically, what's happening is it's going to be like hash hero of heroes. It's not. We used to do like item in items, right? That is what typically we had it in the item in a 1.x world, but that's not how you do it in the 2 world. So it's basically star ng for hash hero of heroes, and then notice this. This is I can use this hero anywhere inside that li now, and then pretty much it works. So not only that, what is TypeScript great is I can come in here and then I can create a new file, and I will call it as hero.ts, right? And then basically I will say export class hero, and I can create a constructor, if I can spell it correct, right? And in the constructor, what we can do is we can yeah, so let me take a look at the constructor. Yeah, so if I put like this, public id is equal to number, and this is public name is a string. That's all I need to do to create a sorry, I don't need this, guys. Yeah, I need that, but I'll keep this here. Yeah, this is all I need to create my own backing store, or this is like a object that I created. Right now I can come back to the app component, and then I can say like this is going to be an array, but okay, now first I need to go and then say like import hero from, I think this is going to be hero. So let me see, new hero, and I can pass like 1 comma windstorm, and then I can say like new hero 2 comma, oh, get the comma there. Okay, just give me a second, let me type this out. So this is 3 and this is 4. So this is how you can now start actually doing stuff with okay, I have a problem somewhere. What is it? And now this guy will be dot name, because remember we had the name thing coming up there, and we still have a problem. Looks like it's gotta be this guy, import star as hero from okay, let me just quickly see what is going on. I think it's my import which is messing it up, but you get the idea. So basically what you can do is you can always create things like this. You can import it and then you can start working. The way I imported a component here, similarly you can import, this should work, import hero from, where am I? I'm inside the app, so that's the hero thing. I can say that. So let's see this. I'll try to figure out what went wrong and then I'll come back to you. App slash hero. Yeah, I'll go to, I know this is the confusing part about imports. I'm learning, so I'll figure this out, but you get the idea. So what I can do is I can create whatever things I need, and then I can pretty much use them like this, which is a good thing. It allows you to model any of your data as a strongly typed class, and then you can bring in that class anywhere that you want. So that's one thing. So we are already at the 1 hour mark. I just barely showcased you know the stuff that it's involved. So let me go back to app component, and then I'll remove this guy, and then I'll do this. And we are back to, so the click me works, and then this is doing this, all those things. We can do a conditional statements also. So you can say like let's say I want to bring in and then do a conditional statement here. So what is a conditional statement that I want to do is if the heroes count is more than 3. So let's say I want to show if the hero's length is greater than 3, I want to show this there are many heroes, a particular thing. So this is how you do it now. Star ng if, and this expression is going to be the same. There's no changes with this particular thing, so you will continue doing that, and then you do this. Now you will see a paragraph coming there which says there are many heroes. Let's say I'm going to go remove greater than 3. So I'm going to remove this and then save it, and you won't see the there we go. So you won't see the message coming up. That's because we wrote it like, if it is greater than 3, then only show the message which says this thing. Okay, so some of the things that we looked at is the ngFart, the model data, okay, import hero from, okay, that's fine. So how to post data to server. Yeah, I think I'm not showcasing that today. Next, what I'm going to take it, I think it's already at 1 hour mark. So what I'm going to do is, this is just a introductory. As I said, this is like a level 50 of what Angular 2 is all about, what component is all about. Now, I hope you understood this app component model, right? So I can go in and then create any new component like this. And let's assume I created a component called as my second or my comp1. let's assume that's what we create as a my comp1, right? I can go back to app component.html, and then I can bring in like this my comp1, and that's it. Well, let's try to do, if we can quickly do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say uh, comp1 dot component dot ts. So let me go back to the app dot, I'm going to just copy as is, and I'm going to paste it here. So we need a component, and we'll say my comp1, and instead of the template URL, I'm going to put the template here itself just to speed up things. So I will say h1, this is component 2, right? So this is h1, and then I'm not going to, so okay, now what we need to do is we need to call this as comp1 component, right? I'm not going to have anything, so I'm going to just remember this is where we all started. So I'm going to say this. Somebody is asking how do we navigate between views. Okay, let me finish this, and then we'll try to take a look at this. And okay, so what we will need to do is we'll need to go to main.ts, and we will need to say hey, you know what, I need that comp1 component from comp1 dot component. Okay, I'm missing something somewhere. So main.ts ts. So all I said was my hyphen comp1. This is the comp1 component, and that's the selector, my hyphen comp1, and then I'm going to go to this guy, and then I'll say my hyphen comp1. Yeah, this is done. This is correct. So this is my comp1 component from so and so, this one here. Okay, let me try doing like import comp1 component from comp1 dot component. Let's try this. Okay, I need to figure this out. So I made a mistake somewhere. So my scripts are all, my demos are all failing today. Not a problem. So I hope you understand the concept what I'm trying to. So like this, in fact, I've been following along here. If you go to angular.io, so that's the new, what do you call, site now, and then there are a couple of good examples here. Take a look at this thing. So let me show you what this example is all about. This is actually doing an Angular. So as you can see here, so it's the same thing. Import app/main. If you go to the app main.ts, so I'm getting a bootstrap. I'm calling the to-do app. If you look at the to-do app, okay, I needed that particular guy here, and then I needed the directives. Yeah, this is what I missed. So okay, so I know what need to be done. I'll put that out. So if you see here, this to-do app, what it is doing is it's printing this to-do, then it is having this particular line, and then it is showing a list, and there is a form. So the way you can now compose your whole application is you can break this down into small components. I have the main to-do. That's the just the it's an interface, text string done boolean. That is all I have. I'll show in the to-do. Then in the to-do app, what I'm doing is I'm showing to-do list and passing this data called as to-dos, and then I have a to-do form, and then remember this is known as event emitter, so there are advanced things. So I did not go through that, but yeah, so the way now different components are working together is the component, one of the metadata is called as directives, and I'm telling it like, hey, one of the directives that you will see is to-do list, and another directive you will see is to-do form. That's here, to-do hyphen list, to-do hyphen form. But if you go look at the to-do list, the selector is to-do list, right? And then the class name is to-do list. So that is what we need to tell the component that, hey, this is what you will find, and then if you find this, do load that and then let it do its job, which is render that particular, this is what it will do. Then if you look at the to-do form, it's again, it's known as to-do form, and then the selector is to-do hyphen form. So let's come back to the to-do app. So to-do list, to-do form, and I have told like these are the directives that this particular this one will be used. Let me quickly do that. So basically all I need to do is I need to say directives, and then I need to pass directives. So in my case it's comp1 component. So I don't need to, yeah, let me keep it here. So this is the comp1 component, and then let's go back to the HTML, and then we have said my hyphen component, and then yeah, that's all it is. And there we go, this is component 2. That is what I was missing. So this is how you tell Angular 2 component that, what else it should see from this. If you see here, I am now able to create a component 2. So I can go ahead and keep on creating a component like this, bring the component into anywhere. So if you take a look at the app.component.html, the way you do it is you just bring in any of your components. So in the example of to-do list, what they did was they created a component, they called it as to-do hyphen list, then they created a component called as to-do hyphen form. Now I hope you are trying to get the idea that this is all about composability. The more you break it into small chunks, it is easier for you to reuse it. It is easier for you to arrange your stuff, break down your whole UI into small pieces, and then you just go ahead and then start using. So in Angular 2, everything is a component. I hope I wanted to get that level 50 understanding for you guys, and then now maybe we'll come back and then no, component is not a module. That is what I'm trying to tell you. A component is much more than a module. If you see here, this is a component. It has its own template, that is the UI portion, plus it has its own backing logic. A module for me is like a pure business logic, which is like it provides me a gateway to my data layer, or it gets the data, blah blah blah. So that's a module. Or I am writing my own custom algorithm to massage a particular email address or whatever. Yeah, that's a module for me. So the module is pure this one, navigation between views. Yeah, you can do navigation between views, but that's using the ng router, the Angular 2 router that is there. I have not gone deep into any of these other things in Angular 2. As I said, this was an introductory session where I wanted to focus on, yeah, this is how you do interpolation, meaning this is how you bring in the data. So notice here I can do a double brace, the property R. This is the fantastic thing that is available now. Put a square bracket and then tell what property of the element that you want bound to what property of the model. That's it, and then it will automatically do the binding, and this is a one-way binding. Because of this, it's going to be faster. No more watchers on one-way binding. If you need a two-way binding, you will need to use this kind of syntax where you put a square bracket and you put a brackets, and then you say ng model, and then you tell me what property of the model that you want to bind. So now it's going to be two-way bound. Now if I want to come in and then do any of the events, it is much more easier now. I can do key up, key press, everything like this. Within the brace, you just put what event that you want, and then that's it. It gets bound to the particular function, and the function gets called. And then we can do an ng for. These are the structural directives that we have, are in ng if. So bunch of them, other things are available. And this is how you bring in another component inside component A uses component B. So that's the composability or the reusing of your particular thing. So these are some of the things that I wanted to get out there and then tell you that, hey, this is what it is, so that now you get that initial understanding of how Angular 2 works, and you will be able to kind of go ahead and then explore on your own. So I'm going to stop recording now and then get on to the question and answer. So thank you very much for attending this webinar, and this was basically just to make sure that you get that initial first step of what is Angular 2 and what are the changes in Angular 2. I hope you kind of got the whole gist of this whole Angular 2, and then now you'll explore on your own. and I hope your hour was well spent. We look forward to your presence in our future webinars, so stay tuned for our future webinars.